Welcome grade 3. This term we are going to learn about fractions. It's one of the most amazing concepts. It's very important to know your timetables off by heart to understand fractions. Welcome grade 3. This term we are learning about fractions. Fractions is one of the most amazing concepts, but you have to know your timetables to understand fractions. We use a pizza to demonstrate and explain fractions. A fraction means that it's part of a whole. You buy a whole pizza which is cut up in 8 equal parts. Remember, equal parts. It is then easy to divide it so that each person gets exactly the same fraction or parts of the pizza. When you divide the pizza in half, each person gets exactly one of the 2 parts of the pizza, and in this case it will be 4 out of the 8 parts. Half of a whole pizza will be 4 out of the 8 parts. We write this as half or 4 over 8 because half of 8 is 4. A fraction consists out of 2 parts. The bottom part of the fraction is called the denominator. I call it the donkey. It tells you the total number of equal parts. The top part is the numerator. I call it net. It tells you the number of the colored parts. In other words, it's net on the donkey. There's a half. You divide the fraction in 2 parts. Quarter in 4 parts. Thirds in 3 parts. And again quarters in 4 parts. The first circle was cut into 2 parts and one of the 2 parts was colored. The second circle was cut into 4 parts and one out of the 4 parts was colored. The third circle was divided into 3 parts and one of the 3 parts was colored. The fourth circle was divided into 4 parts and 3 out of the 4 parts are colored. We use fractions everywhere in our daily lives. We use fractions when we share a pizza, or a cake, or sweets, marbles, etc. We use fractions when we read time. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. Therefore, 30 minutes will be half an hour, and when I divide 1 hour into quarters, I will find 15 minutes will be quarter of an hour. This means I divided the hour into 4 equal parts. When you bake a cake, you use half a cup of milk or quarter teaspoon of salt. Often when you go shopping, you see clothing marked down to 50% of the original price. 50% is half of 100%. You may compare your own fractions by cutting 3 or 4 strips of different colored paper. Take 1 A4 paper and fold it into 2 equal parts or halves. Now you have 2 equal parts and each one is called 1/2. 1/2 plus 1/2 equal 1 whole. So a half plus a half equals 1 whole. Remember, the bigger the denominator, the bottom one, the smaller the piece. When I divide a pizza into quarters, the pieces will be bigger than when I divide them into eighths. Now you take a different colored paper and start folding again. Take another colored paper and fold it into half. Now you fold it again into half. You have divided the paper into quarters. When you unfold the paper, you find 4 equal parts. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 1 whole. You may fold a new paper by following the previous steps and fold it into once more, and you will find 8. 1/8 plus 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 1/8 equal 8/8. And a whole one is always 8/8. Eighths will be much smaller than quarters. We may use any shape to demonstrate a fraction. You have to count into how many parts each shape or whole are divided. We call this part the denominator. Now you count the colored part, which is called the numerator. In the first block, 1/2, 1 out of the 2 parts. Number 2, 1/3, 1 out of the 3 parts. Number 3, 1/4, 1 out of the 4 parts. And fourth one, 1/5 out of the 5 parts. This is a fraction wall, which shows us the equivalent fraction. Equivalent comes from the word equal. 1 whole is 1/1, and it equals 2/2, and it equals 3/3, 4/4, etc. Half or 1/2. Third or 1/3. Quarters or 1/4. 1/5 or 1/5. Another fraction wall, 1/6, 1/7, 1/8, 1/9, 1/10, 1/11, 1/12. And you can clearly see, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the piece. Look at 1/6 at the top and look at 1/12 at the bottom. And 1/12 is much smaller than 1/6. Numerator and denominator. This is 1 whole. When I divide the whole one into 4 equal parts, when I color one of the 4 parts, I write 1/4 or 1 out of 4. The 1 at the top is the numerator. That's the number or the part that's colored. The bottom part is the denominator or donkey, the total parts of the whole. The numerator counts how many parts are colored. The denominator tells us how many equal parts the whole is divided into. How to write a fraction. You have to look at the colored parts. There are 3 colored parts, and the whole is divided into 8. So it's 3 out of 8 parts that's colored. The next one, there are 3 parts again, and I colored or divided the whole into 6 parts. So it's 3 out of the total of 6 parts. The next one, there are 3 parts colored and a total of 4 quarters. So it's 3 out of the 4 parts. Next one is 3 out of the 4 parts again, although I used a different shape. The last one, I've colored 2 parts out of the 6 parts. So it's 2, 6. The bottom number, denominator or donkey, is the total amount of parts in which the whole is divided into, and the top number or numerator is the amount of colored parts. Let's look at a few examples. The first one is 1 out of 2 parts, so it's 1/2. Number 2, 3 quarters, so 3 out of the 4 quarters are colored. 2/3, 2 out of the 3 parts are colored. 5/8, 5 out of the 8 parts are colored. 2/6, 2 out of the 6 parts are colored.